Hello, ngHouston. That was awesome. That was awesome. You should start every show like that, Jeff. That was great.
Yeah, let me know. Every week I'll come on and I'll make up a song on the spot.
Now I want one of those toys.
$25 on Amazon, the stylophone. I need to get an affiliate link so I can get paid for people buying it. But yeah, stylophone.
Hold on. I have to write that down. I have to get one of those. Okay,
I bought one for my nephew for Christmas, and then I decided to get one for myself at the same time. So
yeah,
I'm happy with it so far.
I can see why. That's super fun. Okay, so obviously we have Jeff Cross on the show tonight, and welcome back, Jeff. We haven't seen you in a while. We haven't seen you in like a year. Your episode was actually one of my favorite episodes.
Oh, thanks. It was my favorite of all of the video meetups I've done.
Do you know I had to go back and redo my whole Linda course, my RxJS course after that episode, because I had already written all these lessons, and it was like, that's stupid. And I learned so much cool stuff. I had to go back and rewrite all that curriculum, and it was your fault.
It was fun. It was slightly traumatic, all the heckling I received from Thomas Burleson, but he's apologized repeatedly for it. But actually, it was a lot of fun.
His episode, actually, his Flexbox episode was epic. It is like the highest watched of all time of all of our episodes ever.
See, I wish I would have been a panelist on that one to return the favor.
Yeah. That one was epic. That's like our number one. Nobody's ever come even close to it. So, but yours is like a close second, I think. Okay, so
my ego feels good.
I want to introduce our panelist and our star. I guess because you're here to heckle him. So you brought us a new victim.
Yeah, I'll be a panelist today.
Yeah. So first, we're going to introduce Lance. Well, we don't have to introduce Lance because everybody knows Lance. Lance, say hello.
Hi. For those who are watching for the first time, my name is Lance Finney. I'm a contractor for Angular work with Oasis Digital based in St. Louis, and I'm also an instructor with Angular Bootcamp. So if you need a 3-day Angular course, we're the people to come to.
You guys are awesome. And you guys are awesome panelists. Like, I feel like there should always be at least one of your team on the show.
Yeah, we try.
Yeah, you guys are great. Okay, and we have fresh blood tonight. Dan Muller, say hello.
Hi, people. By the way, Lance, I'm a first-time viewer, so it's really nice of you to introduce yourself.
Oh, thanks. Well, good to see you, Dan.
Good to see you, too.
So, Dan, I just met you like 10 minutes ago, but I think you're so interesting because you have this this whole purple hair thing going on. You got the like hipster brick background, and you work at Narwhal. So I know for a while Narwhal was like going around and hiring all of my favorite people in the whole Angular community. And I'm like, and every time I found out they were hiring somebody new, I'm like, man, that's uncanny. Like, I didn't even know about this. And there was like the James Henry and then Thomas Burleson. And then like, they were just like dominoes just taking over the world. So I have a feeling if you're hanging out with the Narwhal crowd, you must be pretty cool people.
Oh yeah. Only the coolest need apply, but actually everybody should apply it because it's the best. And just come work for us.
Awesome. So how long have you been with Narwhal?
Oh, it was my 1-year anniversary like 2 days ago, which I only realized because somebody pointed it out to me and I love the little message on chat, and it was so cute. But yeah, it's been a year and it's been great.
That's so awesome. I don't know how I don't already know who you are. I'm surprised that I haven't met you before. But well, our paths probably have crossed, but I was at ngConf and I was running around like a crazy person.
I'm renowned for having no social media presence and also being incredibly socially anxious. So you probably have never seen me before in your whole life.
Well, you've come to the right place because we're pretty mellow around here. So,
well,
it's a good place to start.
And doing a talk, then coming out of your social anxiety for tonight.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I actually have twisted a lot of arms and gotten people to come on this show who like haven't presented or they want to speak at conferences, but it's like too crazy. So it's a safe space.
Oh, I don't need a safe space as long as like I'm getting attention. Like I'm very happy.
Oh, we're gonna have so much fun tonight. Okay, so Angular Console. Let's talk about Angular Console. So it's been a couple months? It's been out.
Yeah, I think it came out like the beginning
early August.
Yeah, August or October. Yeah,
It
it's
was
been a
August.
blur. Okay,
Time
great.
flies when you're having fun. I was saying, Jeff sent me an email back sometime in the summer and asking me about dog fooding, beta testing Angular console, and I didn't know the term. I'd never heard of it, so I had to look it up. And then I was like, yeah, absolutely. And I was so excited. I was like a little kid on Christmas morning when I was like opening it, and I was like, oh, that's cool, because he didn't really tell me like what it did. He just said, hey, this is a project that we've been working on, and I'm like, okay. And then I started like clicking around, and I was like, oh, that's cool. So I was very excited about that.
Yeah, like it worked out really well. I'm glad he told you nothing, because your feedback about like what was like slightly confusing was like super detailed and like valuable. You should be dog fooding all future Angular products.
Well, thank you. Because a long time ago in a prior life, I was a clerical like grunt, right? I was an admin. And so I was an end user on a lot of software before I ever started developing. And that's kind of how I like made that transition to jump over from clerical help to dev, was like, I just volunteered for like every new thing that came along and troubleshooting and all that kind of stuff. I love it. It's fun
awesome.
for me. And plus I get to be like the first one to check out cool new stuff. So yeah, it was anytime you want a beta tester, that was fun.
Well, we'll need one soon. We're adding new features all the time.
That's so cool. Okay, so hold on. What kind of new features? Can you tell us yet?
Yeah. Well, not secret.
Hold on, don't tell me yet, because we're totally, I'm like, see what I mean about a kid on Christmas morning? Let's roll back, because there's a bunch of other people who are going to watch this show and say, what the heck are y'all talking about? So tell us, what is Angular console before we start talking about new features? I'm sorry. Okay. I'm excited. I can't help it.
I'll put on my salesman hat. And then when I fail to do so, Jeff will come in and put on his salesman hat, and we'll be salesmen together.
And then you're going to show it to us, right?
Yeah. It's all ready. So Angular console is this thing that exists because the Angular CLI came out, and it was really great. But it's a CLI, and those are hard to use sometimes, or they're inconvenient to use. Like, I was using it for a year, but I still I'm bad at spelling sometimes, so I would try to add a flag for project, and I would put the R before the O, and that would be good. But then sometimes I'd flip it and it would be bad. And so that kind of sucks.
It's kind of hard to there's so many flags. I use the CLI all the time, and I love the CLI, but there's only so much stuff I can fit in my brain, and it's hard for me to memorize flags. And it's like, I can look it up if I know it's there, but if there's a flag that I've never even heard of, or I forgot all about it, I'm not gonna know to look it up. So
yeah, and nobody likes reading man pages. They're sort of intimidating, and I don't know, scrolling up and down with the terminal. Just, I don't know. There's better experiences you can get.
Right.
That's why OS X exists, and people aren't just using Linux all the time.
For sure.
So with that in mind, one day, Victor Savkin, my CTO, just got a brain burst, and he said that he had hacked all weekend long. And he was like, we could just put a GUI on top of that bad boy, because we have this nice little Angular JSON in every single repo that tells us all about it, and we can just parse it, because I'm Victor, and I'm a genius, and I did it in 2 days. And so he's built. Once he gets going, he just.
I used to be super scared of Victor Savkin, because he's so I couldn't really understand his accent, and he was just he just was so mysterious, and he didn't really talk that much. Or when he did, he would talk really fast, and I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. But once I got used to him, I'd known him for a while, and I understood his accent. He's funny. He's super funny, and he's so snarky and hilarious. But I had to get used to his accent so I could keep, because he talks so fast. But yeah, I love Victor. He's great.
He's a big old teddy bear.
Yeah. I think he was I don't know, because some people I get intimidated, right? And he's one of those, some of the people who are super nice, that once you get to know them, but they're just quiet in the beginning, But then I'm I don't know that person, and I think they're super, usually the people that I admire from afar are the people that are the most intimidating. But then once I get to know them, they're nice. And he's super funny.
Oh yeah. But he's also just strikingly smart. One of the scariest moments of my life was when he was interviewing me. It was a 3-hour grill session with just me and him. And I'd only known him because I'd respected him, because I'd been reading his blog for 3 years since I was in college. It was just,
that would have been terrifying.
Oh, but he was so nice about it. Like, it just ended up going well. Like, he ended up teaching me during the interview because that's just the sort of like person he is, where he just is a geek and he really wants to share things and he can't help himself.
Yeah, it's funny because like so I do consulting, right? And there have been a couple times where I'm trying to like convince people to use NX because just trust me, like I know what I'm talking about. This is like exactly what you need for your project. This is perfect, right? And they think I'm crazy, and it's like Victor has, like I can just imagine them going through all these details and arguing about all this stuff, and then finally like coming up with this beautiful thing, and you get to use it, and it's great, and you just take it and do it, and it'll make your life easier.
True story. Anyway, we're off tangent. I need to finish selling things. So yeah, Victor hacked. He produced the thing, and I made it pretty, and it ended up being this really nice tool that I get to use a lot because I don't know, generating components is just what you do when you're an Angular developer. You generate apps, you generate a lot of things, and this thing lets you do it easier because if you're impatient, like I am, you don't have time to like type out a whole bunch of commands and hit dry run and see what the results are. It just sort of spits them out for you, and it shows you exactly what it's going to produce, and it looks really pretty, and there's a lot of animations. So it
really did. So you did the UI?
Yeah, it was really fun. Our team's pretty
so this
small.
is why I liked you right off, because I loved it. The UI was just so clean and simple, and I love it, love it, love it, love it. So you ready to show us?
Oh, yeah, sure. Let's see. I'll do a thing. I'll hit the share button. Okay, great. So I'll actually show it off in VS Code because this is a thing that I've been working on, and might as well. It's the same product. So anyway, this is Angular Console. It's this little thing that basically it'll show you like an overview of like your Angular workspace. Like these are all the projects that this is actually the Angular Console repo itself. So it's a little meta, but it'll show you like every application. You can like serve it or build it, and it just gives you buttons instead of having to type text. And we do like some fun things, like if you build it, we like sort of parse the build results for you, and we'll like show you a little link to open your app in Chrome, like when it's ready. And you can also have like just the generic text results in line here. And we can do like multiple tasks at once. So it's sort of like a multiplex terminal. But for those of us that don't know the keyboard shortcuts that make us Tmux masters, we get a nice little GUI to like do things at once, so we don't have to feel so.
And that's a new thing in Angular Console, the ability to run multiple tasks at a time. That was kind of a big blocker for me and a lot of people before, is you could only run a build and couldn't go back and do other things in the application. But now you can actually have multiple builds running, still go generate components, and have a fun time.
Yeah.
Dan,
go on.
Can you like walk us through can you make a brand new app, like make a brand new project? And we can kind of see like from the beginning what because I love how there are all these different options, and it basically it's just like you go through and have all the different things that all the different flags that you would have to memorize, and you just get to like flip them back and forth like these little toggles.
Yeah. So yeah, making a new workspace is kind of fun because we try to make it so like it's nice and soothing. Like you have your favorite workspaces, but I was really sad that Google Inbox is dying, and it's like my favorite piece of software that ever existed. So I stole their UI and produced this, which is our create workspace workflow, where basically you just like pick a parent directory, pick it, give it a name, like Namey, Mick, Namerson. And then obviously you choose narwhal schematics because they're better, and then you hit create, and then it just does it.
And let's talk about the word workspace, because that's kind of like an NX theme, right? Is that you might have more than one project that's related. So maybe you have a company, and your company has multiple different departments, and they each have their own app or site or whatever, but they're all like using the same. Maybe you all have the same account management system, or you all have some of the same services. So there's going to be overlap, and and that's the point with the workspace, right? Is you might have more than one app that share assets, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like for when I'm doing console work, like I have my console repo, and that's like when I'm doing Narwhal things during the day, that's where I'm gonna go, and it's gonna that's where I'm gonna do like my job. But when I'm hacking at night, me and a friend like have this project, and so it's completely separate. So when I go inside here, I'm not distracted by like me having thoughts about work. Like this is an isolated context. Like I'm focused on like my hobby projects rather than having all of my Angular stuff like distracting me all the time. That's sort of like one of the thoughts that I was going through when we were initially like designing it, like just keeping you focused on what you want to do.
So
if it's something,
I noticed when you initially loaded this up, you loaded it in VS Code, but now we're not looking at it in VS Code. So I've only used this standalone like this. Was what you were doing in VS Code, is that an extension in VS Code, or is that something that's special magic for you because you're the guy who wrote it?
Oh, well, it's going to be an extension. Like here, look, it's an extension. I packaged it and everything. But basically, it's a little awkward right now. Like when you're in VS Code, like you've already opened up to a specific project. So we don't really need this workspace's selection screen. Like we already have enough context to know what you want to do. So that sort of precludes the need for this whole navigation bar. Like this navigation bar is good because it lets you open things in Finder or VS Code, but you're literally inside it, and it has like functionality to open things in Finder. So the reason it's not released is because I want to like make this even more like contextual to like the new context we're in. Like this bar should not be here. The colors don't match. So those are the sorts of like things that I want to do before it's released, and that's why nobody can play with it except me.
Okay. Yeah, I had seen a tweet about an extension coming up. I didn't follow the tweet, so I didn't know if it was live or not. I didn't know what the status was.
Oh, well, the status is pretty simple in that if we go to GitHub, there's a PR open that has literally all of this code in it. And Victor's been really lazy this past week. As you can see, it's 4 days old. And we'll click inside here, and we'll see that Victor should be a reviewer, and he's done nothing because he doesn't care about me. And that's the reason that none of you can have this extension, because Victor doesn't like you, and he doesn't like me.
Well,
you guys abuse, now I know why you and Jeff get along so well, because Jeff abuses Victor too. Poor Victor.
He likes it. That's how Victor feels love, is through abuse.
It's true.
So I did have another question. You mentioned earlier inbox. I was going to say even before that, this looks really, really material-y. Any comments on that? Was it a no-brainer to go with material, or were other possibilities considered?
Well, for me, it was a no-brainer only because Angular is a Google product. Like their internal branding is all built with Angular material. Like they're actually the Angular blue. Like I looked inside their color palette on their website because I wanted to match the colors exactly, and they were just using no changes on top of the material blue that ships from the color spec. So I feel to be truly Angular, and to make this part of the ecosystem, you might as well just use everything the Angular team's giving you, which is Angular material.
Yeah, and when we started on console, and we got, I don't know, a week or so in, we reached out to the Angular team to show it to them, and so we had a meeting, and they're like, yeah, we were about to build something like this, but we like what you've got, so let's just go with what you're working on and make this the thing. And so we wanted to make it not like a special Narwhal thing, but make it let's match Angular.io. Let's even the logo we had designed, we didn't make it match our Narwhal branding or anything. We want it to be a thing that could eventually become adopted by the Angular team as an official thing, which is still the plan, that it will become an official part of the Angular platform, just like Angular CLI.
Oh.
What happens when you get adopted by the Angular team? Is there a ceremony? Do they tap your shoulder with a sword, or do you get a badge?
Or do they
Brad,
just a big check?
Yeah. Brad will hit me on the head with a sword. That I don't know. He's done that anyway before, so I'm not sure what else he can do.
That would be an exciting day. When they made me an Angular GDE, it was like I got a balloon. Well, no, actually, Samantha got me the balloon. One of the other GDEs was like, "Hey, I didn't get a balloon." Anyway, so Dan, you turned off your screen share. Did you?
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm not like well versed in being on a podcast. I didn't.
No, we're making it up as we go along. But I wanted to, because I think we had asked you about starting a brand new one from scratch, and then we sidelined you with questions, which happens. That's what happened last time when Jeff was on talking about RxJS. We just kept like asking him questions, and then we would go off on a tangent.
So theoretically, I did that. I sort of interrupted it halfway through, so I don't actually know where I put it. So I'll have to.
You put it in documents.
Oh, thank you. You're paying so much attention.
But did you cancel it? Oh no, there.
Oh yeah, Namey McNamerson.
Yeah, you called it. So you'll notice that this is completely blank, and that's because NX workspaces ship without any projects. And this initial screen shows you all of the projects in your workspace. And for those who don't know, project is like a Angular CLI term for like an application is also known as a project, as is a reusable library.
Yeah, so that's an important distinction between NX and plain Angular CLI. Is that Angular CLI you can have many similar projects. Some could be considered a library that gets published on its own, but they don't distinguish between applications and libraries, as far as I know anyway, other than the fact that you can package a library. Whereas in NX, we have two types of projects: the application, which is something that gets bundled and deployed somewhere, and then libraries, which get depended on by other libraries and applications, but don't build themselves. They don't have bundles or build artifacts themselves.
That makes sense.
Yeah, if you like look inside of an Angular JSON, there's like this distinction of like a project type, application and library. So it's like ultimately anything you see in here is just like it's not our custom like stuff that we want you to know. It's like it's just part of the Angular CLI, and it just like if you had really studied exactly all the concepts that it has, they're just reflected to you in here. So it's sort of meant to teach you the mental model that the Angular CLI would want you to have if they had really good documentation.
It reminds me of the NX because that was the thing with when I first heard about NX was like, hey, is this ready for prime time? Should we wait for you guys to work out the bugs? And it was like, no, because it's not like this big software. It's just a configuration, right? And that's the thing with the CLI, like with this Angular console. If you start a project with the Angular console and then you decide that you don't want to use the Angular console, like you still have it's still an Angular project. It's still an Angular CLI project, like same with everything else, right?
Yeah, you just basically, if you really wanted to abandon us, and you never would because it's so great, all you do is...
It's just so easy. Why would you?
I totally agree. But you just get rid of all these narwhal things, and then you're done. I mean, that's literally it. And you can like
and that's to get rid of NX. But to get rid of Angular console, you don't have to do anything, because one of the important design decisions of Angular console is that the database is the file system, basically. So all the data, all the state that you see in here is all in your file system. It's in your Angular JSON, and it's in your schematics. So it looks at what schematics you have installed to know what things you can generate. It's all whatever you can do with CLI, you can do from here, and you can go back and forth between the two without any data being lost.
Yeah.
Hold on, you had a button that said generate app, but then you canceled.
Yep, I did, because everything went bad. Anyway, I'm gonna make an app, and it's gonna be great.
And hold on, but before you do that, you have 25% battery.
Oh yeah, I should grab a charger.
Do you have a charger handy?
I have many chargers handy. When I started flitting about the world, moving away from Colorado, I brought 5 Mac chargers with me, which ended up being really stupid because my check-in bag was like way over weight capacity. So now I'm down to 3, and it feels really naked without the others.
Yeah.
Okay, I almost got it. Oh, I see my computer's decided to launch 2 other OSs while I was gone. That's always fun. That's what you want. Okay, great.
All right.
So we're gonna.
Yeah. See, this is the button I was excited about, and then you went away. So you just generate.
Yeah. So we're gonna make an app for a brand new workspace. We'll call it My New App because that's a great name for an app. And basically, like this, what we've done is like if we wanted to customize nothing about our application, like Angular console sort of does a dry run of what.
So you didn't even hit the button yet. You just typed in the name and it goes off on the dry run on its own.
Yeah, it's meant like when we were first making it, the reason Victor wanted to do this, to make console in the first place, is because like making it doing a dry run was always really annoying for him, and he just wanted the results like instantaneously, so he would like know if he needed to customize the flags more. And so that was the very first feature we built. Like we never intended to do more than this upon inception. So this is most of the value right here, just seeing exactly what's going to be generated before you generate it.
I mean, I love when I was beta testing this, I was getting really excited because the whole app because I just opened this app, like I didn't have any instructions or anything, I just opened this app and it was like the whole thing was just so inviting, and it was like, success, how sometimes you just use software and it's like so easy to figure it out. It's like intuitive and easy. And this was one of those, like, it's just, as soon as I started clicking, something happened and it was like, okay, this is non-threatening. I can do this.
Well, there's a reason for that. During the month of August, I basically didn't sleep because this was a really fun problem where I wanted to make it as easy as inviting as possible. So I would try to go to bed at midnight, and then I would lay in bed and roll around for 3 hours while I went through various design decisions in my head and decided that they were all wrong.
I do. I can relate to that.
Okay, so anyway, this is basically a screen to customize your app. And so we can do lots of fun things, like you can change the unit test runner. Since this is a NX workspace, we let you choose between Karma and Jest. And you might not know that unless you were reading all our blog articles, but we sort of just tell you that because we know exactly what our schematics can do because we parse them in real time. So we can do that. We can swap out Protractor with Cypress because that's something we added recently. And then all of a sudden, you can sort of see that it'll generate all these files. This is the Cypress files that'll get configured, and this is the app, and it'll update Angular JSON. And then at some point, you say it's great, and then you hit generate, and everything goes great. And
this
fireworks
functionality that you're showing us, because it's very and this is what I like about Victor, right? This is very opinionated configuration on what you should name your folders and how you should structure things, and that's all been done for you. That's the Narwhal schematics, right? That's happening with the schematics where it's setting up and it's handling all that for you.
Yeah, basically, the default schematics sort of do a similar job, but I just actually started a brand new project trying to just do it vanilla CLI, and I got so dissatisfied with me perceiving it as being slightly less organized than I'm used to that I had to swap it out because I really like the way NX lays out things.
And if you really want to change one of the configurations, you can do that. You can go and you can take the schematic and make a copy of it and change one thing and have your own schematic. That's kind of the whole point of schematics.
Yeah.
Yeah, we even added the ability to have, you can see it there, the workspace schematic, where you can generate your own schematics for your workspace. So if you want to generate components your own way or have some kind of boilerplate that you don't want to have to do manually whenever somebody creates something similar, then you can create your own schematics.
This is so great. And then you just generate.
Yep. And this is a newish feature. This is a running task. It's not done yet. It's still installing Cypress, but we were still able to do other things. And the thing I like a lot about this feature that we added is once you're done generating things, this is not something you do that often, so it doesn't really matter. But what does matter is it's sort of a quick hit list of things you do all the time. When I'm developing Angular console, I do 5 tasks all the time because that's just how we have to start our dev environment. And it'll keep a most recent list of the things that you like to do. So if I hit start here, and I also like run unit tests every so often, like those tasks will just be here forever until like I hit the trash button. But if I like them, like I never have to get rid of them. They'll just always be here, and I don't need to like parse through this entire list anymore. I just open Angular console and then I just start them, because that's what I always do in the morning when I start working.
This is so cool, Dan.
Thank you.
And I like the fact that you've used like this. I mean, I already said this, right? But it's just cool because it seems so easy.
Well, theoretically, it is. This is a brand new workspace, so I don't know. There's maybe things that could go wrong, but to my knowledge, it all works well and is easy to use. We're trying to add something sort of new where we have my friend Jack just joined the company, and he added this screen, which for this test run is pretty barren. But what we try to do is we try to take what is printed to the console when you run a command and parse it and do something like meaningful with it, which we're able to do like for things that we've built it for. Like if you use Karma as your jest runner, we'll parse through all of the things it has and show you which tests failed and like which lines it failed on. But since we're using Jest, we haven't built that yet, so it's not as sexy here. But if I were to do something like build, that's pretty vanilla, and we've built that in. So it'll show us like where our bundle artifacts are after it's done building. And like we're planning to like work with Alex Eagle of the Angular team to like have them expose more data to us so that we don't just have to screen scrape, which is not exactly the easiest way to get data, but instead they're going to like publish things for us. And then we'll be able to do like much better like UIs.
This is very cool.
So yeah, that's basically what we have now, and we have a lot planned for the future. But yeah, what is there anything you'd like to know that I haven't shown you?
I just because I think you're a fun person, can you show us like one little crazy thing that drives you nuts that you haven't gotten around to fixing yet that we would probably never ever even notice?
Okay, so this is the big one for me. Okay, so when I first was designing Angular console, I didn't think it was going to be like such a, I don't know, I thought it was going to be like a really tiny thing in people's workflow. Like when I was making Angular apps before Angular console came out, I'd usually just have like a terminal and I'd have like a couple different tabs, and like maybe one would do ngserve and the other would be like lints or formatting, and I'd like flip between them. But it's like in this tiny little box. And so when I was first designing this, I thought this would also be in a tiny little box. That's why when I shrink it down like this, it sort of looks like it looks fine. It looks like it's meant to be tiny. But when you make it real big, it looks stupid. It looks really stupid. Nothing changes in like a meaningfully good way. The animations get like real, I mean, like, was that necessary? It's going across my entire monitor. It looks a little janky. So that's the one thing that's been driving me crazy. And I keep getting distracted by like making browser extensions. But what I really want to do and have like designs for is to make this like a full-fledged desktop application. Like when you make it bigger, like we're using Angular material, so we have like all of the responsiveness that it has built in. So what I want to have happen is when you make this bigger, over here to the left, like we expose what's underneath the panel, and they're just side by side. And additionally, like having this hamburger menu when you have this much screen real estate is stupid in my mind. Like there's no reason for it. So all of these things what I'm hoping to do is sort of make it like an email client where this hamburger menu is like semi-permanent, like or permanently open if you have enough screen real estate. And so you don't need to, it'll like save you a couple clicks if you want to change workspaces or if you want to like toggle your settings. Like it'll just make navigation a little bit more what you would expect on a desktop rather than this as it is now, which is sort of reminiscent of what it feels like on a phone.
That's awesome. Well, I wish I had more questions for you, but this software is really intuitive. I mean, it's hard to like get confused because it's just fun. You get to click around and do all kinds of stuff. And I can't wait to see the layout when you finally get the desktop stuff done. But I mean, I can't blame you for doing the functional stuff first because it's you got to do all these cool things and then later on you get to make it pretty.
Hey Dan, I have a question.
Oh yeah, please.
What was that little puzzle piece on the left?
Oh, the little puzzle piece, you say? Oh, thanks for asking, Jeffrey.
You're welcome.
Well, since you asked so inquisitively, I'll tell you. This little puzzle piece over here is meant to be like this way to discover things that the Angular community has produced. It's like, at this point, it's just a curated list of things of like Angular CLI extensions that exist in the world.
What do you mean extensions? Like, what do you do? Can you click on one of those and like put it in your project?
Sure. Like Angular Material is the one that I do all the time. This one already has it, so I'll go back to naming the Namerson because it doesn't have anything. So what it lets you do is you discover like, hey, there's this really cool, sexy Angular library that exists called Material. I want to add it to my project, and it'll run ngAdd for you. And so, like, that itself isn't that impressive, but what is impressive is like,
ngAdd is in itself impressive. I mean, that was already like just what, Angular 6 that just came out. I love ngAdd.
Oh, yeah. ngAdd is great. I just meant like our ability to like run it for you.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
There's
well, yeah, but I wouldn't like. I wouldn't have even seen that because it was just sitting there like it looked so unobtrusive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dan, could you explain what ngAdd does?
Oh, sure. So ngAdd is a fun little beast where what it will do is it's sort of like an addition to like npm install, except it's like Angular specific. So what's like the Angular like community wants Angular packages to do when they publish to npm is have a little thing on their package JSON that says, like, I am compatible with ngAdd. This is what should happen after you add me. And so what happens when you do Material is it'll try to, like, if you only have one project in your workspace and you're not using NX because it is unfortunately incompatible with us, they will like augment your AST of your application and materialify it. They'll add the CSS that's required to run Material to your index HTML. They'll import the Material module in your root of your application. They'll just like do whatever they need to do to get Material up and running. And so what ngAdd is like, it's just a general purpose Swiss Army knife for you to add things and them to set themselves up.
I love this. And it seems like, I mean, for me now, it's easy to add Angular Material to a project, and it takes like 2 seconds because I've done it like 15 times at least, probably more. But when I first started using Angular Material, it wasn't really. I mean, it took me a while because there was like, where do I put this? Where do I put this? Especially adding it to an existing project, it wasn't that easy.
Yeah, no,
So
they're
now
aware
it's,
that
like,
it's
easy.
boilerplate, and they don't really like writing docs. They like writing code because you can test
Right.
code and you can't test people's ability to parse words. I mean, you can try, but that's what Common Core was about, and it didn't work so well.
Getting political. Yeah. Nice.
Sorry.
I can't believe you said that.
I can't either.
In order to have a project like this, that you have to learn about and know corners of Angular and the Angular ecosystem that you just didn't know existed. Because I could imagine with especially add and stuff like that, there are just libraries out there that you had never even seen or heard of. That's only like, wait a minute, how do I support that? Or has that not been a problem?
I think that is a big problem. Like, there's no official list of like curated Angular packages. Like there's kind of is a section on Angular.io that shows you, like they have a blog and they highlight things every so often. And at one point they sort of had like our favorite Angular add-ons. but it's not well maintained, and it's not exactly the most visible part of their site, because why would it be? It's a documentation site. They should highlight the documentation much more so than anything else. But this, it's a section dedicated to other things that the community has to offer. So the hope is to highlight them and make it like a more official list than they've ever had before. Right now it's only kind of long. When I was on a different podcast, Adventures in Angular, somebody mentioned this schematic set that I
Charles Max Wood. Was it Charles?
I don't remember. I'm bad with names. It might have been. Let's go with yes, so that I can save face. Anyway, he added it to Angular console during the podcast. It took him 5 minutes. It just, if you have an extension and you want it to be popular, we are more than happy to highlight it. We just don't know of all the ones that exist because there is no official list.
How did they submit it if they want it to be featured?
Oh, sure. So all he did is we went on over to GitHub, and there's one file that has all of these things. In fact, I'll probably just pull up the pull request that he did it.
Oh, so if you want your thing to be featured on there, you just go on there and open a PR and put yourself on there, and then
basically, we will accept anything, genius. Literally anything.
That's genius. Speaking of genius, did you see who snuck in? Hey Dan, have you met Mike Rocky?
No, who's Mike Rocky?
Now's your time. You guys are going to be friends. I can feel it because you guys are both super fun people. And Mike Brocky is he's one of the guys who wrote the Angular CLI. Do you really not know Mike Brocky? Are you being serious? Oh yeah, because you're stealth on social media. You're not yeah.
Some people call him broccoli.
That's actually only you, Jeff.
Oh, I'm some people.
I have this other repo where I keep a track of everybody who's allowed to call me broccoli, and it's just you. Nobody submitted PR to it.
Oh, I am allowed. That's good.
Dan, will you turn off your screen share so we can
yes.
see? Mike, I can promise you, or your money back. Dan is super fun, and he's a hoot, and you're gonna love him. Dan Muller.
Hi, nice to meet you, Broccoli. I mean, sorry, I'm not allowed to call you that yet. I haven't.
You got to do the PR first.
Yeah, it's a private repo too, so it's really secure access.
That's pretty arduous. I think I'll just call you Mike.
A few people do, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Fortunately, there are no other Mikes in the Angular community, so that you're fine there. No confusion.
Exactly.
Yeah, except there's that one guy who's got Christmas ornaments in his beard. What's his? I can't remember his name.
Hardigan?
Mike Hardington.
Yeah, he'll get really mad at me for pretending to forget his name. No, Mike Hardington, I will never forget your name or your Christmas beard.
I went Mike Ryan. That's where my mind initially went with Mike and beard.
Yeah. I got to introduce those two in London a couple weeks ago, and it was a big honor for me. Yeah. I mean, introduce them to each other, not on stage.
So Dan, have there been presentations at conferences on this or in other forums? What type of feedback have you gotten from the community as you've released this?
I guess it's mostly been on Twitter. It's only existed for 3 months, and I missed Angular Connect because I didn't want to go back to London. So we haven't presented. I'd like to get better feedback.
I think the only conference we've presented at was Angular Mix, which unfortunately wasn't recorded. So it has been presented, but only the people who were there know of it.
I presented at Angular Mix last year, and there was a secret bootleg cell phone recording. It was tragic.
Oh, nice.
It was so funny.
I had one of those of my own, but I had a GoPro, but I haven't published it. It wasn't that great a quality.
Well, you can count on our 6 ngHouston viewers to get the word out.
Sure. I mean, we really want more community-driven features. This is the whole reason this product exists is literally to make developers more productive. And while I'm pretty opinionated, I'm not that I don't know all the ways to make us more make us code faster. So I want other people to tell me what to do, and I'll just do it. But I need to know what to do.
What about issue number 156?
Oh, what's issue number 156?
An issue I created. So when Angular console was initially launched, you guys came on Angular Air. And one of the things that I was looking at was the idea, because in the CLI, in the Angular.json, you can specify defaults for different schematic values. So as of the time when I created it in August 15th, because I have it up, there was no ability to read those defaults out of the config file.
Oh yeah, no, that's I bring that up to Victor all the time. He wants to handle that bug, but he's been too busy. But no, that's
it's all Victor's
Victor
fault.
under the bus once in this episode.
Nice.
Sorry,
Victor's gonna be mad at you.
I think we get up to 5 Victor bus throwings.
Well, since I care for my users, I will fix it for you personally this week.
Yeah,
Wow.
but then how long is it going to take Victor to merge in that PR?
Oh, I don't know, years.
Maybe we should all write Victor letters.
I'll merge it for you, Dan. Just IM me and I'll merge it without reviewing.
Great. That's what I like. My code's perfect anyway. It doesn't necessarily, like, for other people to review my code is more just a courtesy to them so that they can see it, but it doesn't need it.
So they can be blessed by seeing the art that you create.
You guys are hilarious.
Yeah, but Mike, to your point, that is like the most annoying thing. Like, it makes me not trust console because I always want to generate SCSS instead of CSS because I'm not a savage. And it always shows me that I'm going to have CSS, and I get really scared. And I know because I'm like the author that it will do the right thing, but I'm sure to anybody else that is like right of minds, it looks like it's going to do the wrong thing.
You're fun. You're your own worst critic because we love it. We think it's beautiful.
Oh, well.
At least I do, and I speak for all of us because I started the show, so I can do that.
She speaks
when you
for
make something,
millions of people in Houston are all very impressed with it.
So we have gotten. So even though we haven't presented a whole lot, we have presented a few places, but it's got a pretty good adoption. The last I checked was a couple weeks after we launched it, and there were thousands of people using it. I don't know how many are now. I should know, but GitHub's been a great place where we get a lot of feedback. So we've had over 400 issues. I see. I'm the most recent issue. I had a bug the other day with it. So that's the best place for people if you want something. Open a GitHub issue on the nrwl/angular-console repo.
And you guys are not, so it's just free. They can go download it. Is it going to be monetized at some point?
My Venmo is listed on the README, so if you want to, I have nothing to do with it. But you can still pay me for it.
So, is this your full-time job, Dan? Or
no, God, if it was, the product would be a lot better. Basically, we're trying.
You have no character.
So, I do have to give a critique here, Dan. You're not really selling this.
Oh, sorry. No.
No, he has. You missed the whole, like,
practically
the whole show. He showed us like really cool stuff, Mike. Don't be mean to Dan. He's our new friend.
No, Mike's right. I should do better.
That's why I'm here. I'm supposed to help sell.
So basically, like, Nrwl is a consultancy, and so we make our money like consulting for people, and like we don't make money off of console yet, though we're like launching features that would help us do that, and it's like funds, it's like development. We're built in now. We have Nrwl Connect, which is kind of cool. It's just a little tab inside console that allows you to, if you sign up, you can ask us at Nrwl questions without having to become a full-on client. Yeah, you can ask Victor like what his favorite shoes are, and he's a really stylish man. They don't even need to be Angular questions, honestly, but they also could be because we have some of the authors of Angular on the team, so those might be like better uses of your money and time.
Wow.
But
no, I like the shoe thing.
Yeah.
So you can theoretically, like, that will get really popular, and then I'll be able to work on it more, and that'll be happy for everybody.
Good sales pitch.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and also, like, we're really smart, and you should ask us questions. Like, we literally like contribute to the framework all the time. Like, nobody knows how to set up Angular with Bazel except for Tor and I and Alex Eagle of the Angular team. So literally, if you want to do that, like this is the only way to do it. You're not going to figure it out by yourself. You should just use Narwhal Connect.
I did go and start to beta test Bazel when I think it was when Brad first talked about it at ngHouston, or I think it was ngConf a year ago, 2 years ago, maybe. And he said, go test it out, try it. But I've always done front end development, and I haven't done a ton of build or back end development or anything like that. So I looked at it and I was just like, nope, not the place to learn back end development on beta testing early versions of Bazel. It's pretty hardcore stuff.
It's a scary place. Like once you're well versed in it, you see the utter beauty that is Bazel. But like the road to get there is scary and filled with like errors that are unparsable by humans.
Is there a paved road through Angular console to get to Bazel?
Oh, there will be. Alex Eagle and I chat all the time, and like the pace of getting Bazel ready for prime time is like it's going, but there's just a lot of things to do. But the goal that I proposed to him is like he wants to just have it be ng addable. You ng add at Angular/Bazel, and so that will be like the thing I highlight, and I'll highlight it in the special color because I think Bazel gets priority. And then you hit a button and you hit add, and then it's Bazelified. Like that's the vision.
It's Bazelified.
Yes, that is my trademarked term. Every time somebody uses it, I get paid $1.
I love it. You have to come back on the show again, Dan, because you're a lot of fun. Thank you.
I'd always be happy to. You guys are also a lot of fun.
Okay, so you're also doing consulting. You're helping. So if they want to hire Narwhal to come in and and mainly you guys do like big enterprise, large projects.
Yeah, like I don't know. We cater it to the company that approaches us. Like we get approached by big companies, but we also get approached by small ones. And they just work with Jeff. Jeff smiles a lot, and they go and meet, and they get coffee.
He's got the winning beard.
Yeah, most of what we do is helping people get off on the right foot and get them to a place where they can kind of take the best practices and advance things that we've helped them get started and be productive on their own, with us still kind of helping them as they go and being involved. But we're a lot different from most consultancies that we try to have an exit strategy from the start for our engagements. Like, let's get through these big technical or organizational hurdles and then help your team be productive as we kind of back out of the picture.
Like Mary Poppins. I take the same approach. If I've done my job, like, you don't need me. Like, that's the whole point of what I'm trying to do here, is that you don't need me. And once you know how to do this, and really, I think that unilaterally, every team that I've visited, that they've built this Angular application and they're struggling with whatever. Every time, the one thing they have in common, they're writing code that they don't need. Like, this is Angular it's complex. There's a lot of moving parts. But if you know how to use it, you know what all these, options and configurations and stuff, like, Angular will do so much work for you. And there are so many developers that are learning Angular and writing way more code than they need, because all this stuff comes out of the box and it's all handled for you, and you just have to know how to access it. And that's why Angular Console is a good place to start, because that the thing is, when you make an architectural mistake, then you sometimes don't realize you've made a mistake until way down the road. And then so the initial structure of your app is so important. And that's why the console, when you're starting it out and you're getting it all fired up, to put everything in the right place to begin with, will make it easier down the road. All those hard lessons that we learned from doing this wrong initially the first few years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's certain things you shouldn't have to think about when building a project, and how you structure your application is one of those things that you shouldn't have to devote a whole lot of mental cycles to. There are a lot more interesting problems you should be solving as an engineer.
Because Victor has already devoted many
trust Victor.
Mental cycles.
Mm-hmm. NX was built out of our own
before.
Sorry, go ahead.
Very true. Oh, sorry. I was going to say that it's sort of like coding before you have a formatter that you're forced to use. And so people would argue about white space and things that really, really don't matter, like just things that are absolutely trivial.
Right. Okay, well, I think it's about time to wrap it up. If anybody has any more questions. Okay, so the main thing is, and I know we said this earlier, but I just want to wrap it up and say again, where do they go to download it?
Oh yeah, they can go to angularconsole.com, and there's a nice little download link, and it's a really pretty website.
And so even if there are some paid features that will be added, the main it will still be a free application, so they'll still be able to use it. Yeah, even as you guys add premium features.
Yeah, and we have a pretty explicit contract, not like a real contract, but we've defined a contract with the Angular team of like how we're governing our own development of it, because like they can actually veto things we do in console and say, no, you can't do that, or you have to undo that, or like we have a check and balance together where they make sure everything we do in it is for the public good, and the things like we limit the amount of premium narwhal things that we add into it to be good citizens, and we want things that make sense for the community that other people can contribute. Like we want to encourage that as well.
But I really do want that like secret questions access. But do they have to be Angular questions? Can we like ask questions of like?
You can ask whatever you want, Bonnie.
Seriously, I'll ask you how I got my hair to be so gracefully smooth.
It is beautiful. It's beautiful. Okay, we have to wrap it up. I have to get back to my renovation project. Thank you all so much for coming on the show. And you've all been on the show before, but Dan, you have to come back again because I haven't met you before, but I really like you. You're fun.
Oh, thanks, Bonnie. I'll come back anytime.
Okay. Okay, well, that's it. Thank you so much, and we'll see y'all next week.
Thanks, Bonnie. Bye.
Bye.